Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel Code for Tech Solutions. Today's video is going to be very useful and knowledgeable to all those who are looking for a complete full stack application. This video will guide you on your journey on how to master in full stack development from scratch. I will also suggest you to visit my channel and see all other full stack projects, as I have covered most of the full stack projects using combination of React plus Spring Boot and React plus Node.js along with various databases. In today's video, these are the some important points which we are going to cover, like we will see the architecture diagram first. Next, we are going to create a user interface demo through which I will showcase you a small demo of how our user interface will look like once we build and run our application in browser. Next thing, like we are going to create a database and collection on the MongoDB database side, and here we are going to use the MongoDB Compass, which is a graphical user interface with which we are going to create database and collection on the MongoDB side. And these are the points which we are going to cover while creating our backend application using Node.js, and these are the some points which we are going to cover in sequence while creating a front-end application using React.js. These are some prerequisites. Here we are going to use all the latest technologies, like for front end we are going to use React, which is 18 plus, and Reactable, which is 7.8 Axios library, and on backend side we are going to use Node v20 plus, and on the database side we are going to use MongoDB, and as we discussed we are going to use MongoDB Compass to create database and collections and documents on the MongoDB side, and we are also going to use Postman in order to test our backend APIs, and we can verify the result in Postman side as well as on the database sides. Let me take you to the architecture side. So here we are going to create our customer web front-end application using React.js, and in that we are going to use Reactable and Axios library. Using Reactable library, we are going to implement some core and main features like searching, sorting, and pagination, and we are going to use functions and hooks available in Reactable library to achieve all these core functionalities. Using Axios library, we are going to give a call to our backend APIs and retrieve data and store data into the MongoDB database. Next, on the backend side, we are going to create a customer service using Node.js, and in that we are going to use the Express framework for the backend development, and we are going to implement all the CRUD operations on the Node.js application side. So next thing, like on the database side, we are going to use the MongoDB, and we will create the collection and the database on the MongoDB side to store the customer related data. So this is about the overall architecture we are going to use, and as we are going to implement many features from start to end, and as you already know that we are going to use the latest technologies, and we are going to implement key features like searching, sorting, and pagination along with all those latest technologies. So I will request you to please watch this from start to end so that you will not miss anything in between. So this video will help you to how you can ease your full stack development, and it will help you to cover all those points where you are stuck, or even if you want to start your journey on the full stack development. This project is really useful and helpful to all those who are looking for the full stack application. So let us start with the points. Like first we have seen, like let us see how our user interface will look like once we run and build and run our application into the browser. So this is our interface. It will look like, inside which, like this is the header, and this is the add and edit panel through which we are going to add the customer or edit the customer. So let me add one customer, let's say Kumar. Here we can add the email for Kumar, and we can add the gender, let's say it's mail. Here we can see the record is added successfully. Now if you want to edit any record, we can simply click on the record, and let's say if you want to modify it, let's say Kumar1, and here you can see now add button changed to the update. We can click on update button and go to the last record. Now this you can see the record is updated successfully. So this is about the add and edit updation part. Next, like if you want to delete any record, we can simply click on delete button, and with that, like it will give us one pop-up. We can click on OK button, and the record will get deleted from the database. So this is about the delete functionality. So here we have search filter functionality. Here we can enter any text. Accordingly, the data will get filtered out, and this is applicable to all the columns and table data. So it will filter customer ID as well as the name or email or gender. Fine. Next thing, like we are going to implement the sorting functionality as well. So you can see it is sorting in ascending and descending order for customer ID, same for name field and email field, and for gender. So this is about the sorting functionality which we are going to implement as well. And finally we are going to implement the pagination part. So in pagination part we have four buttons, like first, previous. As you can see, as we are on the first page, it is showing only 5 records. By default it should show 10 records per page, but we have set it to the 5 records because we can check all those functionality with lesser number of records. Now here first and previous button is disabled because we are on the first page and we do not have any previous page to show, hence those are disabled. Now this is the page index and this is the page count. Now we are on the first page of 3 pages. This is the next button. Once we click on the next button, it will take us to the next page. Likewise, it will keep on taking us to the next page, and once we reach on the last page, the next and last button will get disabled. Similar way, we can click on the previous button and it will take us to the previous pages. So we have last button as well. Once we click on the last button, it will take us to the last page, and on click of first button, it will take us to the first page. So this is about the pagination part. So in and all, like we are going to implement searching, sorting, and pagination, and along with all the CRUD operations. So let us start with our first point, which is like creating a database and collection on the MongoDB database side. Let me delete the existing one so that we can create a new one. So this is the MongoDB compass. You can see once you install, it will appear like this. Now to create a database, we can click on the create database button, plus button, and here we can mention our database name. Let's say it's a customer master, and here we can mention our collection name. It's a customers. We can see the database is created and this is the collection inside that. Now the collection is empty because we have not added any record in that. So with this, like we have created the database and collection on the MongoDB side. Now let us create our backend application using Node.js. So let me exit this VS Code instance so that we can create a new instance. We can create one new folder with name like customer-service to create a backend folder project. You can go to the customer service. We can see one empty folder is created. Now let us initialize it using command npm init-y. You can see the package.json is created. Now let us install all the dependencies or modules which we require, like we require express, course, node.js, and mongoose. If we need any other module, we will add it later on need basis. Fine. We can cross check into the package.json. We can see all the modules are there under dependencies. Now let us do one thing. We can create one new file as an server.js. Now inside server.js, what all things we need to do? So we can write down all the steps. So what all things we are going to do, or the tasks. Like first we are going to create a server. It's a backend server we are going to create using Node.js. Next thing, we are going to establish a database connection, MongoDB connection. Next thing, we are going to create a model, and next thing, we are going to create a router and implement all the CRUD functionality in that. Fine. Now what we can do, like we can write all the code in one file, or we can create different folders and keep the respective files in that. So let us create different folders. Let's say for database related stuff, we can create one DB folder. Next folder we can create to keep the model related components, and next folder we can create for routes. So we have created all the different folders. Now let us create the component inside that. Let us create one new file with the db.js. Inside db folder, inside model.js, we can create customer.js, and inside routes folder we can create file name as in routes.js. Now let us add respective code inside this. Now first of all, before we add anything into this, let us first step, like we are going to create the server it here in this file itself. So let me add all the necessary modules which we are going to use or import it. We require express framework, express module. We require course. We can define one constant for app. We can define one constant. We are going to use Mongoose to connect with the MongoDB database. And we can define one constant for port as well. And here we can mention process.environment.port, or we can mention specific port like 3000 or any other port which you want. Next thing, like we are going to add one more constant for body parser, and we require body parser. So these all modules we are going to use. Our app is going to use express.json. Next it is going to use course. Next it is going to use body parser dot URL included, and here it is extended as in true. Now we can write one method like app.listen, and here we can listen to this port callback, and here we can log the message as server is running successfully on port, and here we can mention the port number, which is this port variable will contain this. You can save it. So what we have done, like we have created our server. Now we need to do one more thing, like here we have package.json. Here by default it is index.js. We need to change it to server.js. Next thing, we need to add one start script, and here we need to mention node1 server.js, and we need to complete the statement. We can save it. Now let us run our application using command npm start. Yes, we can see our server is running successfully on port 3000. So first thing we have done, like we have created our server. Now let us establish the database connection. So for that we need to write our code inside database. First we can mention our modules, like we require express, next constant we need as an mongoose to connect to the MongoDB database. Next thing, we can define one constant for DB, and here we can call the connect method on Mongoose, and here we can mention the actual URL, which is MongoDB/localhost, and here is the port name 2G7017, and here is our database name, which is customer_master. Here we can add .then, and if connected to MongoDB successfully, and in case of catch we need to catch the error, and we can log the error. Now we need to export this DB so that we can use this connection. So actually we have just added the connection related code in for Mongoose, like this is the URL and this is the port. You can check on the MongoDB side. So this is the port number, which is 27017, and this is the database name which we have created just now, like this is the customer master, and same we are mentioning it here. So this is about our DB file. Now let us create our model component, and here inside this model we are going to add these two statements as is. Now here we are going to create one constant, and here we can mention it's a customer schema, and here we are going to create a new mongoose.schema, and inside this we can mention what all things we require, like we require name, which is type of string. Similar way we can add two more columns, one for email and next for gender. Fine. We can create one more constant like it's a customer, and we can say can call mongoose.model, and here we can mention our collection name, and here we can pass this customer schema, and we can complete this. Finally we can add export statement, and we can add customer, assign this to. Fine. So this is about model, and these are the fields which we are going to use inside this customer schema. Like these are the columns, name, email and gender we are going to use. Now inside now let us create the route part. Similar way we are going to add these two in routes as well, and here we can define one constant. Now here we need to add our model as well, which is a customer, and here we can add require. We can add our model which is customer. Now next thing we can define one constant as a router, and here we can call express dot router function. Fine. Now let us add the actual let us call the APIs. Like first we can write for get mapping, and this is the endpoint we can mention, which will return all the customers, and we can add one callback, and these are the request and response, and here we can add our try block, and here we can add catch block, and inside this we can add our error, and here we can log our error in case of any, and we can say response dot status, as in if it is a 500 you can mention the specific status as per your need, and here we can send this error. Now for now we are setting 500 in case of error. Fine. So herein we need to write the actual code which will return all the customers. So we can define one constant which will hold all the customers, and here we can call this await, and here we are going to call the customer dot find method we are going to call, and as we are going to select all the customers, so we can complete this. We can pass the empty brackets so that it will return all the customers. Now we can simply send the return the customers as a response. Fine. With this we are done with our get method, which is our first method, which will return all the customers. Now similar way let us add our post method, which will allow us to add any customer to the database, and herein we are going to first define one constant, and here we can say it's a customer object, and can say new customer, and here we can mention for name we can capture request.body.name. Similar way we have email. For email again we are going to get to value from request.body email, and we have gender field. Here again we are going to take field from request.body.gender. Fine. Next thing, we can define one more constant as customer, and here we can call await, and this is the customer object. On this we can call save method. And finally, this customer we are going to send as an response, because this customer is added into the database, that will get returned with this response statement. Fine. With this we are done with our post mapping. Let us add one more method for updating the customer. So for updating the customer we are going to use patch method, and here for patch method we need to add id as well, and here we can define one constant and take the value of id from request.params.id. And here now we are going to call the one method on customer, which is we can call the await first. Await dot, here we can use the method like find by id and update method, and here we are going to call first parameter, it's a id field. So here we can mention as an id, and we can pass this id. Next parameter we can pass as an request body. So this is the modified object which we want to update it against this id into the MongoDB database collection. And next thing, we can add new collection, new value as in true. So this is the id, this is first parameter, and this is the request.body, and this is new.true. Fine. Now after this, like this is find by id and update, and we can return this object itself and as an customer object as a return response, as a part of response. With this we are done with our patch method, which will allow us to update customer into the MongoDB database. Now let us add delete method similarly, and this is the id, we require id again. Now here, instead of find by id and delete, we can call find by id and delete. Instead of update, we are going to call the delete method, and here for deletion the customer, we do not require the body, only id is enough. Now here, this is the, we can say it's an deleted customer. So the same we need to pass as an return type. Fine. So with this we are done with all the CRUD operations now on the, and which we have implemented on the routes.js. Now we need to access all those into our server.js. Here we need to mention one more thing like router, and here we need to use the routers first. We need to require to add routes, and this is our routes. We can mention one constant like a router, and we can use express.router. That's it. Now here our app should use this router. Now we can use app.use, and here we can mention slash, and we can add this router. With this our app will use this router. Now we are done with our all the code changes. Now let us test it using the postman and verify whether if everything is running as expected or not. So now the port number we are using, it's a 3000. Let me check. Let us call first get method, and here is our localhost 3000, which is a port, and it is a customers is an endpoint. Let us check by calling. See, it is giving some error. So we can add this db file as well. We require this on the server side. So we can add this db.js, and basically we need to export this router which is missing. Now let us check it once more. Okay, so this is actually, it should use routes, not router. Fine. Now we can see it is showing the empty array, which is as expected because we do not have any data on the database side. So which is as expected. Now let us check by adding one entry into the database. We can use post method, add this URL, and here we can use JSON. Let me take one record to add this. Fine. Let us check. So here we are using the post method to add the customer into the database. Now we can see one customer is added successfully into the database. We can cross check it. Yes, we can see the Kevin is added as expected. Fine. Let us add one more entry. Let's say it's a Sam, and here we can add email for Sam. Yes, we can see it is added successfully. Now we have two records in the database, as well as once we call the get method, it should show two records. Fine. Now we can try for our patch method, which will allow us to update the customer. So to call the patch method, we require the actual request body as well as the ID as well. So this is the request body. Now we need to pass the ID as well, against which this object will get updated. Now we need to change this. So we can say it's a Peter Sam. Instead of Sam, we are changing it to Peter, and we can send it. Now we can see it is updated successfully. Now let us check by calling the get method. Yes, it is updated, and same in the database. We can see fine. So our update is working fine. Now let us check by calling our delete method. For delete method, we need to use the http delete method, and for delete method we just need ID. We do not require the request body, and we can see the Peter record with Peter is deleted from the database. Now if we call the get method, it should show only one, and which it is showing the same. Now if we check on the database side, now the Peter's record is deleted successfully from the database. So fine, our all the CRUD operations are working fine as expected. Now one more thing you can see, as we have name, email and gender. Let me add one more entry so that So if we call the get method, we have Kevin's record only. Let me add this entry and check the get. Now we have two records. Now we can see we have name, email, and gender fields, and this is the underscore ID which will get automatically created by the MongoDB. Now, what if we want to add a customer ID which is a unique and we want to need it to be auto incremented, right? So as we can create the auto increment field in a relational database, similar way if we want to create such auto increment field in this scenario, in this specific case, what we will do? Fine. Basically we need to generate the auto increment sequence in MongoDB to achieve that. So what are things we need to do, like so what happens, like earlier we used to do that by counting the records in on the database side, and then we are going to add one to it, and then uh, we assign that new id to the new record which is going to be inserted into the database. And again, if we delete anything, any record in between, then that count becomes duplicate, or the record will become duplicate due to that count duplication. So which is not the feasible and right approach to do that. Even in that case, we need to call a couple of queries in order to generate get the new count which need to be added or incremented into the database whenever we create a customer object into the data. So that is not a feasible approach. So what is the recommended approach? Like we can use the Mongoose sequence which is available for us. We need to install one more module, like it's a Mongoose and it's a sequence we can use. Fine. Now you can check inside package.json. It is inserted it there. Now we can use it into our model. We need to use that. Now here we can call one constant we can define. Let's say it's an auto increment, and here we can add require, and here we can use mongoose dot sequence underscore hyphen sequence, and here we need to pass the connection instance which is mongoose in our case. Next thing we need to do, like we need to let the mongoose database know on which field we need to auto increment the sequence. Like we can define one more, we can use this customer schema, and here we can add the plugin, and inside plugin we can mention the collection which is a customer in our case, and we need to add the customer schema. Here it's not so okay. So here we need to mention the field, like uh, what is the inc field which we are going to use. So for this plugin, first thing we need to pass as an auto increment. Next we need to mention the inc field, and here we can mention what is the exact column name which need to be auto incremented. And that's it, and we can save it. Now let us run our application and check how it goes. Now let me delete the existing record so that we can check if our auto increment is working or not. So first of all, it is not deleting. Let me stop our application first, and we can delete these records next. Fine. Now we have cleared everything now. Now let us create, if we call this get method, so we have not run any, application is not running now. Fine, it is now running. Now it is giving the empty array because we have cleared the database. Now let us add one entry. Now we can see customer ID is getting generated, and it is like first one is assigned to it as we have created first entry. Now let us add one more entry as a Kevin, and here we can add email for Kevin. Now we can see it is incremented by 1 for the next record. Fine, seems good. Now if you call the get method, we can see customer ID 1 for first, second for the second record, which is fine. Now it is auto incremented by 1, and we have created this customer ID auto field, which is an auto incremented field. Fine, so now we have 4 columns like customer ID, name, email, and gender. Fine. With this we have achieved our auto incremented as well, and we have tested all our crud APIs as well. Fine. So with this, like, we are done with our backend part, which is like all these things we have tested and covered. Now let us create our front-end application, and all these points we are going to cover. Now here we can create our, first of all we can, okay, so we can create our React application using command npm create with @latest, and here we can add customer-web. Now we can choose React and JavaScript. We can go to the customer web, and we can install the dependency using npm install command. Now we can call npm run dev and check if our application is running fine as expected. We can see our application is running fine. We click on this one count. Fine. Now let us clear everything from the our customer web project. Let us clear everything so that we can make a fresh start. We can clear this app.css, app.jsx as well. We can remove this unused variables and imports as well. We can save it. Now we can see everything is cleared. Let us remove this icon as well, and we can change this header, which is like full stack plus React.js plus Node.js plus MongoDB, and we can save it. Now let us create our layout or our main container. You can define the class name as an customer container, inside which we can mention one header, and the header we can mention as an full stack React.js, Node.js and MongoDB. And here we can add one div which will be used for our add and edit panel. And next thing, we are going to add one input and search. Here we can add input search as an ID, and here we can add some class name as in search input. Fine, and we can save it. Now let us add some CSS for these classes. We can add some width as in, let's say, 577 pixel, height as in fit content, and here margin left we can add 50 pixel, and here fine. Now next thing, we can add for h3, and here we can align text as in center. Next thing, we can add background color as in blue violet, and we can add margin left as in 50 pixels, same as above. You can save it. No, it's not a background color, it should be only color. Seems good. Next thing, we can add edit panel, and here we can mention the width same as here. Height we can mention, let's say it's on 60 pixel, and we can add border 1 pixel solid, and here let us add some background color as well. Seems good. Now we can add we have this search input, we can add CSS for that as well. Top margin we can add 30 pixel, height we can make it as an 27 pixel, border seems good. Now let us add the table part as well. Now here, before we add the table, here inside div we have we can add one more div, and here we can see add panel div. We can name it like add panel div. Fine. Inside this we can add one label which is like for name, and here we can mention it as a name. Here we can add one line break. The next thing, like we can add one input text, and we can, it's for name, and here we can add class name as a add panel input. We can save it. Now we can add some CSS for this one. So before we add panel input, we need to add for add panel div. So let us add for both. Can add for input like border radius as a 5 pixel. And here we can add font size and line height 10 pixel. Width we can mention height 25 pixel. Seems good. And here we can add background color as well. Fine. So this is about the name. Similar way we need to add for two more fields, like one for email and other is for gender. Seems good. Now it is coming one by one. Now let us add, this is our team. Now we can add display and it should be inline block. Seems good. Now we need to add two more buttons, so like after this. one button for add, and we can add class name as add btn. Similar way, we can add one more button for cancel btn, and its name is cancel. We can add css for both tools. Border radius we can add as in 5 pixel. Width we can add 60 pixel. Seems good. Now similar way, here we can add the background color as well, and let's say it's green. Now let us add some other combination of the color. Seems good. Now similar way, we can add one more button for cancel. And this is the cancel. Fine. So we are done with our add edit panel. And this is the input search. Now let us add our table part. So after this div, we can add table. So we need to add this table inside this div, which is for customer container, and we can mention the table name as a cost table, let's say, and here we can add the css for this as well. Now here for customer table, we can add border 1 pixel solid. Next thing, like border, no need to border radius. Now border collapse. Width same as 577 pixel. You can mention height, fit content, and we can save it. Margin top we can add 10 pixel. This is the cluster table, and same we have mentioned it here. So let us mention some height, let's say 50 pixel, and check. Now let us add. So inside table we have this, like first is our t head. Inside this we have tr, and inside tr we are going to render the head part. So this is about the t header. Next thing, like we need to add similar way t body, and inside this again we are going to render the data. For data we should use td. So this is the general structure we used to follow for creating any table. We can save it. As we can see, it is created. Now let us add something like margin left as an 50 pixel. Seems good. Fine. Now let us do one thing. We have created this table. It's a common thing, very common. Now let us use our React table library in this. Now first we need to check whether we have this React table added into this. So we do not have React table library. So what we can do, first we need to import install that. We can install. So what are things we need? It's a first React table and Axios library to give a call to backend APIs. So we can install both these. Fine. We can see Axios is there and React table is also installed. Now let us do one thing, like here we can keep running our application and add we can use start using our these modules. Like first is use table hook we can use, and from it's a React table. Next thing, like we are going to use and again like we are going to import Axios from Axios. That's it. Now here what we can do here, first of all, in order to hold the customer data we need to define one constant, and here is our customers, and we can add set customer methods as well. Can use state we can use and initialize it with empty array. You can save it. Next constant we can define for columns, and here we can use react dot use memo, and here we can call this a dependency array, initialize it with. Now inside this we can mention, so we need to follow some format, like we need to mention header first, and here in our case it's a customer ID as a first column. Next thing, like we can use accessor as a so what this indicates, like this is the header which is a customer ID and this is the accessor. So header is going to display on the UI side, and through accessor we are going to access this column header. That's it. Now this is for customer ID. Similar way we need to add 3 more columns, like first is name, next is email, same we can add it here, and here is our gender. Fine, we can save it. Seems good. Now we have columns as well. Now let us add one more thing as an data, and we can use same like React as use memo it here, and here we are going to use customers as an data, and this is an empty array. And save it. Fine. So we have now customers, columns, and data which is holding the customer. Now next thing, like we need to define one more constant for table, and table will be using the hook use table, inside which we are going to use columns. And next, like data, and this data will hold customers data. Fine. Now this table, instead of this table, we can more precisely mention what all functions we are going to use. Let's say it's a get table props, get table body props. Next thing, like header groups we can add. Now we can add rows, and next we can add prepare rows, and we can save it. These all functions we are going to use. Now if we need any more function, we simply add it into here. Now let us use these functions into our table to render column and data as well. So here we are going to use the functions, like let's say first is our get table props. We can use this function at table level. Next thing, like we can use header groups dot map, and for each header group we can render this row, and here we can call the function like hrp for header group, and here we can call get header group properties. We can mention it here as a key, and here we can mention h group dot id. Now here for each headers, let's say we can say for each column, now we need to render the header, and this is the header we are going to render it here, and we need to use the function like column dot get header properties, and here we need to mention one key, which is column dot id, and here we need to exactly render our header on column, and we can call render method on column and mention exactly what we are going to render, which is a header, and this header is nothing but what we have mentioned it here. These are the columns which will get displayed on the browser. Yes, we can see once we save it, it is now displaying as a table header. Fine. Now this is about the headers. Similar way we can add for table body properties. For this we are going to use get table body props function, and here we are going to use rows dot map, and here for each row we are going to render we can call the function So before we render row, we need to prepare row first, and we can pass this row. Fine. Next thing, like we can call the function on row like get row properties. So here, before we do anything here, what we need to do here, we need to mention the return. Inside this, we need to add this row. We can cut and add it here, and this is the get row properties mention, and we can add one key as an row.id. Fine, seems good. Now let us do one thing here. We can call row.cells dot, we can call map, and for each cell we are going to render this data part, and we can copy it, and here we can again call one function like cell dot get cell properties, and we can add one key as an cell.id, and here we can exactly render our cell, which is cell.render, and here what we are going to render, it's a cell, and we can save it. Fine. Now you can see here it is not showing any data, only the column headers it is showing, because even though there are records in a database, it is not getting shown it here, because we are not calling any get API from the front end, so we need to call those API from the front end. So what we can do, we can define one method like constant get all, let's say get all customers, and here we can mention, we can write one here, we can mention like can use axios dot get, and here we can mention our URL like it's a localhost 3000 and it's a customers, and if then we can call we can add the callback, and here you can say console.log, and here we can mention restore data, and apart from this we can set customers as an restore data. Fine, we are done with this one. Now still it is not showing any data, because we need to give call to this customer. We can use effect, we can use, and here we can call, let's say get all customers, we can give and call it, and we can initialize it with some dependency array. Now we can see data is added as successfully. Now here we can see we have two records, and same it is showing on the UI side. Fine. Now let us add some CSS part for header part as well, so that it will look good. We can open the app.css, and after this we can add one head, and here we can mention like border 1 pixel solid text. font size 11 pixel we can add. Line height 20 pixel, and we can add some background color. Seems good. Now similar way we can add for data part, and this is our TD. Here we can mention line height. Can change the color, background color we don't need to pass it here, and save it. Seems good. Now after this we can add one keyr, let's say nth child e1, and here we can add one background color. Here we can mention some blue color. Seems good. Fine. So this is about the table style we have added for color palette and all. Now let us do one thing, like what we can do, we can add write one add method like post API, so that we can add the customer data into the database. So let us do that part. So before we do that, we need to capture what all enter into name, email and gender in some object. So we can define that object here. We can mention one constant, let's say constant, and here we can mention customer data, and here we can set customer data, and here can use the use state, and here we can mention, we can initialize it with, let's say first name, we can keep blank. For email again we can keep blank, and for gender, so basically it is empty string. Fine. Now next thing, like what we can do it here, for this text box, for this value field we can add as an customer data dot name. So whenever we enter any text inside this one, that value should get set it here. One for name, next is for email, and another one is for gender. Now one more thing, like whenever we change any text here, so it should handle that change event as well. So what we can do, like here we can call this on change event here, we can say it's a handle change, and we can define one function for handle change. Let's say it here. Now here we can say set customer data, we can say it's a customer data, here e dot target dot name, and we can set e dot target dot value. Same thing we need to add it here for email as well as for gender, and we can save it. Fine, seems good. Now what we can do here, now whenever we enter any text at here, that text will get captured into this customer data bean or object now, and whenever we click on add button, it should handle submit. So we can check this is our add button. Here we need to add on click event, and here we can mention it's a handle submit, and over here we can mention handle add. Fine, and here we can mention the function name as an constant handle add, and here we need to, and here we can use async, and here e dot can call prevent default. Next thing, like we need to call axios dot post method. We can copy from here, and instead of get method we need to call post. Here we can call await, and here we need to pass actual customer data as well. This new entry we need to insert into the database. That's it, we can save it. Now let us check by adding this into the database. Let's say here we can add Sandeep and email as in sandeep@gmail.com, and gender we can add male. Now we can see it is getting added, but it is getting shown only after once we refresh this one. So what we can do it here, we can call this get all customers method after this addition. Seems good. Now let us check by adding one more record, like let's say it's a Kiran @gmail.com, gender is male. Fine, now it is getting added and we do not need to refresh even. Fine, that's it, that's good. Next thing what we can do, like this add button, now here this is getting added successfully. Now we need to update. So to update any record, we need to add the action buttons like edit and delete buttons. So let us add that action buttons. Let us say here we have this header, we can copy as this, and here we can add our edit accessor as an edit, and here we need to pass one id field as well as an edit. Now here we can mention one sale, and here we can say props, and here we can add one button, and here we can mention this button name as an edit btn, and we can mention edit, and we can save it. Yes, fine, it is showing. Now similar way we can add one more field for delete button. Now what we need to add some CSS for these two buttons. Let us add CSS part as well. Can add width as a 60 pixel. Font size as a 10 pixel. Line height can add somewhere 13 pixels, seems good. So this is for edit button. Similar way we can add for delete button. Seems good. Now let us add the color as well. So what color we have added for add and edit buttons? Add and cancel buttons. Same we can add it here. This is for edit, and for delete we can add some red kind of color. Seems good. So we have added this edit and delete buttons to our table, which are the action buttons. Now let us make them clickable. Whenever we click on them, it should handle some functionality. Like once we click on edit button, first whatever record we select, that record should get populated in these uh, text boxes. So we can add the logic for that. So whenever we click on, this is our edit button, so we need to add on click event, and here we can mention that it's an handle, let's say handle update, and here we can mention props dot cell. We can access cell, through cell we can access row, and through row we can access original. So we need to write this function which is handle update. we can write this function handle update, and here we can add customer object at here. We can say set customer data, and here we can simply pass this customer object, so that whenever we click on this edit button, this value should get first this value should get added as a part of customer data, and customer data is mapped to these fields. So whatever value in customer data, that will get shown at here. So we have set our customer so that it will get reflected in here. Now let us save it and check what will happen. Now if I click on edit button, Sandeep and Kiran, you can see it is reflecting as expected. Seems good. Now let us add our update code as well. Now for submission, we are using the same handle add button for both handle add method for both addition as well as for updation. So let us do one thing at here, like we can check it here if customer data dot customer ID is there. In that case, we should go for updation, or if customer ID is not there, we should go for addition part. Now here, if the customer ID is there, that means our customer is updated. Now we need to call the patch method in order to insert that updated customer into the database. And here for update method, we need to pass the ID as well. So here we can add the customer data. Let's say here dot customer data dot customer ID. We can save it. Fine. Now this is for updation. Now we can save it and check it once again. Now let us update one entry. Let us say it's a Sandeep. Instead of Sandeep, we can add, let's say, Sunita, and here we can make the similar change, and we can make it as a female. Let us cross check on the UI side. Let me inspect it. Okay, fine. So here actually instead it's not a customer ID, rather we should pass as an underscore ID for in our case. And here we should check, it should be, if there is underscore ID, that means that record is existed. Now let us cross check it once again. Now we can see it is getting added as expected. Now instead of Sandeep, we can say Rupali. and here we can mention the same as, and here we can make it like it's a female. Now it is getting updated as expected, so our updation is working fine. Now let us add few more things, like let us try for delete as well, so that we can complete our CRUD operations with that. Now for similar way, here is our update, handle update. Same way we can call it here on click, it's a delete. It's a, instead of update we can call it's a handle delete, and we can save it. Now here so we can call one delete method. Let's say we can copy this code, and here instead of here we can mention handle delete, and here we need to pass the actual customer which is going to be deleted, or customer ID, actual customer object we are passing it here. So here what we can do, we can remove this, fine, and we can call axios.delete method, and here we can pass cust.id, and no request body is not needed, and this is the delete method, and this is the id we are passing against which the record will get deleted. Now after this we need to again like we need to set customer data, which is like restore data, because now the list has changed because we have deleted one record. Now let us check what will happen at here. Let us say we can try, so we need to add one more thing here, like we can add one constant for is confirmed, and here we can call window.confirm, and here we can mention are you sure you want to delete, fine. Now if is confirmed is true, that means the user clicked on OK, then in that case we are going to delete this record from the database, and you can save it. Now let us check last record, which is 4th. So the 4th record is deleted, but only after we refresh. Now we need to add one more thing it here, like after this we can add window dot location dot reload, fine. Now let us check what will happen if we delete the 3rd record. It should deleted at the same time without refreshing the page, fine. It is getting deleted as expected. Now with this we are done with all the CRUD operations as expected. Now we are going to implement the searching, sorting and pagination part, so let us focus on that. So for that we need to do one thing, like we need more records because we are going to see the searching, sorting and pagination, so we need to add few more records. So let us delete the existing records and add the new records into the database, fine. Now our database is empty now. Now let us add one new data as such. Now I have this file ready now. So this is our customer data.json file which is ready for us. Now it is profile ID. Now we don't need that profile ID, we can delete this. Okay, and here Instead of profile ID we need to mention it's a customer ID. Fine, we can save it. Now we can import the JSON one more time. Yes, now it is a customer ID. Fine, we have somewhere 15 records in a table, so that we can verify the sorting pagination part. So if we click on this one, now we can see we have more records, which is 15. Now let us first implement our sorting part. Now this is our use table. Now here we can use sort by, and same we can add it here in our after this. We can use sort by, and we can add. So we need to add it in order to sort the columns. We are going to sort on columns, so we need to add something at column level. So here is we are going to render this our column here. Inside this prop we can call column.get toggle. Here we should use get sort by toggle props. This is the function we need to use. It will sort the table data. So let us check now on the browser side. So you can see it is sorting the column customer ID, same for name and for email and gender. Seems good. Now let us do one thing, like we can add one arrow as well for ascending and descending purpose. So after this header we can mention is sorted, and then we can add one span, and it here can mention is sorted descending, and then we are going to add up arrow, or else we are going to add down arrow. Now here to add the arrows we can simply use Windows colon option, or you can specifically add the icons using the React icon library. Here shortcut is Windows icon, you can use and insert it here. Seems good. Here we can add, we should add column dot is sorted. Same way here it should be column dot is sorted esc, and we can save it. Now let us check it. We can see arrow is appearing as expected for all the columns. Seems good. Now the sorting is working fine. Let us add the search filter or searching functionality. Now here we can add use we can use global filter. These are the hooks which we can add so that we can make use of the functionalities available within that. So we don't need to write much code. Simply we need to know how we can use these hooks. Here we can add, let's say here again we can set this global filter. Fine. And here we can define one constant, like let's say global filter as a state, and this state we can mention it here as well. Now here we need to set this global filter wherever our input box is there. So this is our input box, search input. Here we can add for value we can set global filter, or we can set it blank. And here for on change event we can use, like can call set a global filter, and here we can pass the value like e dot target dot value. We can save it. Now let us check on the browser side. So we can search, this is first, let's say 7th entry, yes, seems good, it is searching, let's say Vijaya, yes. And for Sam email, fine. And for female entries, yes, it is filtering as expected. Now our filter is working fine. So now the next thing, like we can implement our pagination part. So let us do that. For pagination part, again what we can do, we can use one hook which is like use it's a use pagination, and same we can add it here. Now next thing, like here what we can do, we need to add a few buttons after the table ends. Here we can add, we can mention one div, and this is, we can call page div, which is for pagination. Inside this we can add 4 buttons. Now here class name for first, here we can mention first we can say page div button, and this is the first button, next button, and this should be previous, this should be next, and this is the last button we are going to use. And it here again we are going to add some span in order to show some page index of page count, and we need to add this page index and page count it here. For page count we can edit it here, let's say, and for page index we can add it page count we can edit it here, we can save it. Now it is showing 15 records per page, so by default it should show 10 record. So now here what we can do, here we can mention as an after this column data we can add initial state, and we can mention size as an let's say 5, and we can save it. And it should be page size okay, initial state and page size is 5, but it is not working because the problem is that we are iterating on rows. For pagination we should use page instead of rows, so we should use page it here, and same we can iterate on it here where we are showing the row data. This place we need to use the page. Now we can see it is showing the 5 records per page, and these are the buttons. Now let us add some small CSS for the buttons, these page 2 buttons, like seems good. Now it seems good. Fine. Now here it should show 0 and 3. We are on the first page. It should show first instead of 0. So we can add some. It should be page index plus 1. Seems good. And here postman also we can add some class name, and then IDR index IDX. Can add margin left as in 5 pixel. Seems good. Now let us, whenever we click on first button, whenever we click on next button, it should show next. On click of previous, it should show us the previous page. So let us add that functionality at here. Like this is our next button. Here we can add on click. It should show next page. Now we can check our next functionality. Once we click on next button, it is showing next 5 records. Similar way, it is showing the previous 5 records on click of previous button. So previous and next is working fine. Now next thing, like what we can do, we need to disable these first and previous button whenever we are on the first page. So here can call disabled. Same way for next page, if there is no next page, it should disable next button, as well as it should disable the last button if there is no next page as such. Fine. Now we can use this. Now we can save it. Seems good. Now it is getting disabled. Similar way, now whenever we reach on the last page, next and last button is getting disabled, and once we reach on the first page, first and previous button is getting disabled, which is as expected. Now we need to add, whenever we click on last button, it should go to the last page. So here on the last button we can on click. Here we can say go to page, and here we can add page count. Similar way, whenever we click on first button, it should take us to the page zeroth page index. Now we need to add this go to page, it here in our use table functions, and we can save it. Now let us check that functionality. Whenever we click on last button, it should take to the last page. Okay. So it should be page count -1 for the last page. Now we can see it is taking us to the last page on click of last button. So whenever we click on first button, it should show the first page. So with this, we have completed all the CRUD functionalities as well as the core functionalities like searching, sorting, and pagination for our full stack application, which we have built using React.js, Node.js, and MongoDB. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I will request you to please like and subscribe the same. Apart from this, I have implemented the series of full stacks using a combination of React plus Spring Boot as well as React plus Node.js. So you can visit to my channel, which is Code for Tech Solutions, and uh, uh, and go to means check your respective full stack application and watch the respective video, so that you will get an idea of the different full stack applications. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and thank you so much once again for watching this video. I will request you to please like and subscribe the same. Thank you so much.